Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Breaking Barriers. I am really excited today. Guy Prandstatter, thank you so much for being here, man. You're the owner of Seven Souls, and you do some pretty incredible stuff. You've been in the tattoo industry for years, for decades. And so for people who are like, who is Guy? Can you give us just a high level of, your background and what led you to this industry?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks a lot, John, for having me. Tattooing found me, really, I'd say. I didn't find it. I was a musician at the time, pursuing a rock star dream. And I got really just sucked. I'll say I got sucked into it. I was getting tattooed. I'd like to get tattoos. I was a Marine early in my life. I was in the Marine Corps, and I started getting tattooed. But then, I met this crazy woman, man, and I started helping her out at the gym. She became my friend, and one day she said, "Hey, you want to learn how to tattoo?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't think I could do that." But, I had an art background. I had some skills in that way, but I just never gave it any thought because music was my thing, So
Right.
I just started training with her, and, 5 years later, I became a tattooer, and I've been with it ever since. That was 1989, maybe 88, 89.
Wow. So you're getting a nice pump in the gym, and then bam, next thing you know. So wow. So like, are you still friends with the person?
Yeah, she's dead, but
Okay.
Unfortunately she died. Yeah. But she changed my life, man. She completely changed my life.
The gratitude for somebody bringing you into what winds up becoming your future and your whole career and your legacy is so incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say it's a unique story because a lot of tattooers, like, they want to be tattooers from, like, you'll see pictures of them when they're kids, like, markering on their body. Like, that's how long they want to be tattooers. It just wasn't my thing. At the time I was really into music. And I had this big vision of how I was going to, break through, and it just never occurred. So, tattooing has been like the best one, just literally the best thing that ever happened to me. It changed my life forever. Gave me something that I would never have found the kind of life I have right now without tattooing.
So let me ask you a question. So 1989, before you were in that gym having that conversation, what was your career trajectory before tattooing? Like, what were you going to want to do?
Yeah, I just wanted to be a rock star, man. That's all I cared about.
So you were just dialed in on music.
Yeah, I didn't care about anything else. I mean, at the time I was a trainer, at a gym, this gym I'm telling you about, I was like just training people, I had a certification, but I was into working out, that could have been a path, but, there was nothing else in the world for me except music at the time. So.
And what instrument did you play?
I'm a singer. I play drums. I play
here.
guitar. Yeah, I sing. I write. I play guitar. I do a lot of, I engineer. I got my own studio. You're in my studio right now, actually.
I was going to say, look.
Yeah, I got my microphone right here.
Yeah.
It's not on. My podcast mic, but I don't do podcasts anymore. But anyway.
Got it. So that's really cool, guys. So essentially, that led you to, obviously, music passions into, tattooing, and boom. And talk about the development of Seven Souls. So how did you then go from, okay, now I'm an artist, to bam, Seven Souls, and how did that start?
Yeah. Well, I had my own shops for a while. I had my own shops for like 10 years. I had two of them, one in Hudson County, New Jersey, a town called Guttenberg, and then I had another one in Jersey City. And then I got really bold and I opened up a shop in Manhattan, downtown on Houston Street. I spent my life savings on it. And I went for it. I just threw it all in the ring, and I failed miserably. I couldn't get it to work.
Really?
Yeah, I did a lot to prep and see. I did all the stuff that you normally would tell somebody to do before they open a business, but it just didn't work out. I couldn't get it to work. I had to shut it down.
Was it the overhead, the crazy New York overhead?
Yeah, I was in like a triangle of of three of the best tattoo shops in the planet,
Wow.
downtown Manhattan. I mean, that, and there's, when I went to check the place out, there was like tattooed people everywhere, like sitting on the stoop of the building that I was going to rent, like bunch of tattooed dudes just hanging out. I'm like, hey, what's that? So I thought it was like, man, this is a no-brainer. But
Right.
it was like a very closed culture, and you had to like really, there's a certain way to break through, and I just couldn't figure it out in time. And yeah, the New York City, real estate got the better of me over time. But what I did there was, I learned a lot of great lessons. Cost me a small fortune, but I learned a lot of great lessons that I took back to Jersey with me to my other shops. And I had at the time I had a different name. I was Body and Soul Tattoo, and then I got a partner and started to expand. This is where I met you, more or less, because my partnership dissolved. It went terrible.
Right.
And I learned that lesson the hard way. It cost me a small fortune. I didn't, the thing about that is, it was really just about having good paper. I didn't have good paper. So, like if I had good paper, what I know now, partnership agreement, stuff like that. Like I didn't have good paper. We just kind of like were friends and went into it together. I said, hey, come on board and we'll do this thing. And before you know it, we had 7 shops across the country, all major markets: Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, a couple in New Jersey, New Haven, Connecticut. I had shops all over the country. We were talking about going international. But like things sometimes don't work out, and I had to make a pivot.
Right.
And I dumped that partnership. I got out of that partnership with 7 artists. That's kind of where the name came from.
Okay.
I gave up. Yeah, I gave up all the branding, all the name recognition that I had built up in the other shop.
Right.
I gave it over to him. He took over the shops out of New Jersey. I took only the ones in New Jersey and 7 artists.
Right.
And I started over. 7 souls. And, interestingly enough, there's only one of those souls left here with me. But it's the nature of the business. It's a bit of a, transient. I don't want to say transient, but,
That's how it goes. There's high turnover.
People move on,
Yeah.
They want their own shop. They want to work with people that they have high respect for and learn. So they go their own way, and there's no hard feelings. I mean, there was some hard feelings at the time with a few, but I'm over that. That took a little time to get out of my system, and now I'm really just all about the souls I got, man. I got some great souls, man. Got more than 7 of them.
I love it. And so I want to unpack, because there's a lot. I think the meat of this podcast is going to be in those 2 things, which was what you learned from New York and then what you learned from the partnership, kind of going in separate ways. A lot of people, email in and they ask us those questions about like, how you create successful partnerships or what's the best way to do it. So what, if you were to go back in time, right, to the beginning of that partnership with your buddy, obviously the first thing you would do is, I'm sure, have a paper trail and better dots. But but what else would you do better, and what advice would you give somebody that is about to get in a partnership with a friend?
Ooh, partnership with a friend, I would tell you, don't do that. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
But if you had to, again, the good paper thing is always good. But I did a couple things wrong. I didn't really vet him in some ways, and I didn't make him ante up. I would, if I did it again, I'd make him ante up, and if he didn't, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I had a business that I was generating a significant amount of money, and then I brought him into that business, without a buy-in. I should have done that, I think. So that's my one thing. How to buy into the business. Yeah.
That's a key. I like that. I like that you brought that up, because there's a lot of people that do that just kind of, well, boom, here's some equity because you want a partner.
Yeah.
And then they build in through sweat equity. But when shit hits the fan, you know, it's like, then that's where those things are like, fuck, I should have did that, because it's really not fair.
No, it wasn't.
So there's a lot of people that also email in and talk about like wanting to grow and build a business. And you think about the epicenter of business, and typically the business capital of the world is typically New York, right? So what did you learn? What would you have done differently about that location you opened? If you were to do it today, you know, what would you do differently knowing what you know now?
Yeah. It's tough because I really believe I vetted that place pretty good, man. But you know, I didn't have deep enough pockets to last long enough. I had just enough, you know, so I didn't have a backstop to to break through. You know, sometimes things take longer than you think, you know. Like if I'd have been able to keep going, I could have maybe broke through that market down there. I mean, it's possible, but I ran out of money. And I had to make a decision, you know, that it was either like, I'm going to, you know, start taking money out of other shops and start doing this and start doing that to keep floating this place. And I just, you know, I learned a pretty good lesson from a friend that I had who had, you know, he had a bunch of different businesses. He's more of a serial entrepreneur, you know, just opening different kinds of businesses. I was never like that. This is all I know. So I never really ventured away from it.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that he kind of told me, goes, you know, once you recognize that the business isn't really working, get out.
Right.
Just get out. Take your money, whatever you got left, and, you know, get out. Now, he may be looking at that from the perspective of like, I don't do what I'm in business to do. You know, I'm just an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I always had this thing that like, I can do it. I can make it work. I can do another tattoo. I'll do this. I'll do that. So if I didn't have that and I only had to rely on others to, you know, to do that, I probably, you know, would have heeded that advice a little sooner, and got out. But I got out when I did, and, you know, I'm the better for it. Get out. I'd say the thing that, I mean, I don't know if that's a good advice. Get out before it's too late. But don't let it drag. Like, I could have let that thing drag my whole life into a black hole, man, you know?
Right.
You know, bankrupt, that lost everything. You know, it was going there. It could have gone there, you know?
Right.
So get out when you know that you're out, you know?
And I know that that's so much harder said than done, of course, because I'm sure obviously there's pride attached to it. Like, you know, you open that place, you put a lot of work into it. To walk away, it's hard, but sometimes you got to cut those losses. That makes total sense. You know,
a lot of ego invested in that place, man. That's what it really was. You know, a lot of ego. Yeah.
So what do you think, you know, if you were to go back to, you know, at the start of all of this, when you were, let's call it 1989, I guess, you know, would you have done anything differently?
Well, I wish I was in high school in 1989, but unfortunately I was in high school in 1980. And what would I do different? I don't know. What would I do different? I guess I would have probably stayed in the shop that I learned in a little longer. You know, I didn't know enough. I didn't really know enough how to run a business when I left there. You know, I left for some emotional reasons, you know, like, you know, like my feelings were hurt or some shit like that. I don't even remember, it was so long ago, but you know, I probably could have learned a lot more staying there. She was super smart, and, you know, and I could have learned a lot more, but I had to leave when I did. And then I had to figure out a whole bunch of things the hard way. You know, I didn't grow up with a, you know, businessman dad, and, you know, someone who, you know, who showed me the ropes in anything. So I had to learn everything myself the hard way. And I'm better for that to some degree, but man, it was a long, hard road, you know. I'm sure you do. You know, I know you know.
Dude, I get it. And it's similar here. When I started adapting when I was 17, it was because my parents, were about to lose their house. And, I was in high
Mm-hmm.
school. And so, my dad wasn't a business person. My mom, became a stay-at-home mom because, we had 5 kids in my family. And so, but it's so funny, and I'm curious for your perspective on this. As I've gotten older, right now, I've looked at a lot of what I used to look at. Do you know who Brandon Novak is?
Say it again.
Do you know who Brandon Novak is?
No.
Okay, so anyway, he's a skateboarder. You ever hear the show back in the day called, the movie Jackass and Bam Margera?
Oh yeah. Of course, though. I know
So
that.
he was in their crew.
Okay.
Brandon Novak. Tatted up everywhere. But anyway, he said something really interesting. He had a really bad drug problem, and growing up and stuff, and then he got worse and worse, and he almost OD'd like 2 or 3 times. And his last time, his mom, like, essentially they told his mom to get his affairs in order, because they didn't think he was waking up out of the coma he was in. And he just talked about how all of his misfortunes became his fortunes. And you said something before that really resonated with me, because all the things that I went through growing up that were like annoying or like were really traumatizing in certain ways at that time of my childhood, ultimately built me into the leader that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon Novak's quote is, "My misfortunes became my fortunes." And what's so when you were talking about like the New York City thing, or the partnership not working out, did you want to go into college?
No.
Right, and neither did I. And so, a couple of the scenarios that I had similar to yours, I'll never forget. Somebody came to me and said, "John, you didn't go to college. This is that's your college education."
Right.
Your college education is that those fortunes you were spending in getting out of New York and getting out of whatever. But nonetheless, so where do you see Seven Souls going in the next, let's call it, decade?
Well, if I open another location, my wife's gonna leave me. That's for sure right now. But I've had good fortune, good people, and as I've acquired good people, it calls for expansion. But I really feel good about what I got right now. Like building the roots deeper as opposed to wider.
Totally. Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at,
Yeah.
I think I may have gone wide in the past before deep because I'm so ambitious,
Right.
Coming from nothing, like really nothing,
Yeah.
makes one and could make one ambitious. It certainly made me ambitious. So, so I have that ambition. I had it with music. I had it, I have it with generally, like I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that took me 20 years to earn, daily on the mat.
You do that every day?
I have, yeah.
Nice.
So like most people will quit that like within their first year, really. First year, maybe 2. They'll get a blue belt and quit,
Right.
So the things that I fall in love with and that I'm passionate about, I have a lot of ambition with. So I have to. I feel like at this point in my life, I have to curtail my ambition a little bit. I want to spend time with my kids. I want to spend time with my family. I've spent most of my life chasing money.
Right.
And I feel like at this point in my life, I've gotten a good, solid foundation, and I can mentor others to become their greatest self. Like I have 4 managers in my locations, and they're all incredible, and I want to help them, become the best possible person they can become, not just for me, but for them in their life, and have the opportunities, and money changes things. Help them make money, help them change their financial direct future. All the people that work for me, just helping other people change their financial future.
That's awesome, man. That's incredible. And now we're coming out to the last two questions here.
Okay.
And one is I'll say a little bit more challenging. One's a little bit, I'll call it mild, a little spice to it. Which one do you want first?
Well, I'm a challenged guy, man. Challenge me, bro. I'm in.
So which I love about this, because we've asked this question probably for past 2 years to hundreds of entrepreneurs, and we've only had maybe less than on one hand people say, "Give me the easy one first." So I love that. It's core. It's consistent with entrepreneurship. I love that you said that. So all right. So talking about your kids, talking about the business, talking about what you built and stuff. Legacy is a thing, guy, that most entrepreneurs like you and I think about, where our feet are planted here today, and what we're doing forward and what we're going to be remembered by. In this kind of question/exercise, I reverse engineer it, and I like to think of it backwards and ask, so if we were to cut out all the bullshit and get down to the one thing that's going to supersede you, your children, their children, and that's your gravestone, right? If you were to write that today, and of course we're going to paraphrase this, I don't expect you to know it spot on, but what would your gravestone say if you were to write that today? How would people remember you?
I mean, I guess I'd have to say that and it may not only be in tattooing or business, but I've made a difference in people's lives. I've definitely made a difference in a lot of people's lives. Between teaching and training martial arts to giving people opportunities and to become tattooers, to change their life with tattooing, to work in a good shop with good people and make money. That makes a difference in people's lives. I'm, like you mentioned earlier, I'm sober. I've been sober since 1986. So
Wow.
I've helped a lot of people get sober, be sober, stay sober.
Right.
I'm in a men's organization where I help and support and train up men to be successful in their lives, not business necessarily specific, but just all areas of their life. So I'm a part of what's called a men's team.
Okay.
And we, kind of like a mastermind group if you're into, Tony Robbins or something like that. But it's kind of like that where we
That's cool.
Challenge each other to
Is
be
that
our
how you
best.
met Ben?
Who?
How did you meet Ben? That's how we met.
Who's Ben?
Ben Burton.
Oh, Ben Burton. Yes, that is how I met Ben Burton.
Okay, I figured.
He was a guest at one of my team meetings, brought by a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And we hit it off. Yeah, Ben's a good guy. Ben's a really smart guy.
Love Ben. He's super intellectual.
Yeah, super smart,
Yeah.
But again, that's a good example. Ben, super smart, high intelligence, really successful, needed more access to his heart, I would say. And
Right.
that's what we talked about, worked on in that, meetings that he came to, how to get more heart-centered, connected, deeper.
Right.
It's important.
How did you learn that?
How did I learn that? Other men, really. I mean, challenging me, get put into situations and circumstances where I had to be a leader, step up for things that, forced me, to, and I'm sure this, like, I have like certain things I rely on, strong suits, things that are my go-tos that, like, and what happened for me is when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Like, so I would just use that on everything.
Right.
And it was effective in a lot of ways, but, the kind of leader that I was, didn't attract the right kind of people. So I had to learn how to, how to give a shit, how to care. Now, you don't hear that a lot in entrepreneurial circles. How do you care about it? I don't know.
No, you don't. You don't.
It's all about, making money, and that's important too. I don't know. I have learned what's really important for me, and that's having deeper connections with people. And I've been working on it. It's a work in progress, man. I certainly don't.
Now, have you? So I had this question because I'm a newer parent. So my wife
Okay.
and I have an 11-month-old son.
Congratulations, Mazel Tov, man.
Thank you, man. And now we have twins on the way.
Right on.
So we're gonna have 3 under 2.
Congratulations. Right.
Yeah, we're excited. It's gonna be a whirlwind. What advice do you have for newer parents who are entrepreneurs building their family? What would you say? Building your career, building your businesses, having kids, being married. What advice would you give somebody like me?
All right. I don't know how this is gonna land.
Let's go rough. It's okay.
I don't live my life for my kids, man.
Okay.
You hear people say that they're my life. Nah, they're not my life. My life is my life.
Yeah.
My kids' life is their life.
Right.
So I just work on within balance. Balance is important, but within balance, showing my kids what it looks like to go after what you want.
Right.
To live your life based on like no nothing in the way, no boundaries. Fighting. To go for what you want. Like with my earlier son, I have a 27-year-old. At the time I was a musician and I would take him everywhere. He was 14 years old playing on rooftops in Brooklyn with like some of the baddest cats on the planet.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And he would come and see me even when I first like really started doing it the way solo, like real solo without a band. And I would fail miserably in front of a coffee house crowd, fail, like miss all kinds of things and like pick myself up and do it again. Like he saw me do all that stuff with me side by side. Cool. It wasn't like a lesson I was giving him or a talk,
Right.
So, and I brought him and some of my kids to my shop and, I let them see what I do and who I am and what I'm up to. And I guess the thing I'm saying is I don't live my life for my kids. I live my life to show my kids what living a life looks like.
That's powerful, dude. I actually really like that. We have a client who's like a reality TV star, and she's a mother. She had a couple kids, and she had a business she started in the clothing industry that she put on pause when she started growing her family. And, we signed her, I think like 6 or 7 months ago. And she talked about how like, this is like her finding herself again because she lost herself when she was having her kids and whatever else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your family, and there's a lot that I see in parents that they do wind up doing that. They do wind up, dedicating everything and then they lose themselves. And, I think there's a lot to unpack there. I don't think that was a rough or negative thing to say. I think it's really awesome because I think you fucking hit the nail on the head that most parents I don't think ever get. And it's kids will rarely listen to what you tell them or what you have to say, but they'll always watch and repeat what you damn do, whether you like it, whether it's good shit or bad shit. Yeah. And so the fact that you said, hey, I want them, to see me living my life, and so they can figure out how to live their lives. It's so well said. I fucking love it. I'm taking that one with me here. But I really love that, man. I mean, the easier one, in most cases it's easier. Some people see it as harder. I guess it's debatable. But over the years and through your own resilient challenges that you overcame, right? What has there been a guy original quote or adage, or something you've heard when it comes to resilience and pushing past the tough shit?
I think this is harder.
And honestly, it could be one that you like that you've heard too, to make it a little easier. We'll open it up to just any sort of adage that you've heard over the years that like just really, really, stood out to you.
Yeah, I guess if I had to quantify it down to one, which is really hard, I'd have to say my good friend Mike used to say, "You're not alone." He'd say it all the time. You're not alone.
Right.
Growing up the way I grew up, I always felt like I had to do it myself. I'm all alone. I mean, I could go on and on about that stuff, you know. Nobody could do it better. All kinds of different things that come out of that. But you know, I can't do it alone, man. I fail miserably when I'm completely relying on my own, you know, limited abilities.
Right.
And not just the business of it all, but you know, how to find my way as a man in the world.
Yeah.
We see often, I'll just say generally speaking, men see other men as competitors, not compadres as much. And not looking at men as like my competitor or my enemy, but as my brother.
Yeah.
That's hard, especially in today's world, man.
It's very hard.
You know,
it's very hard.
It's a work in progress. It got harder. I was doing really good with it until, I don't know, 2016 or so. Now it's gotten worse. It's getting harder. And we'll leave that there.
Yeah. Guy, I'm so grateful for your time today, man. You know, you're always such a pleasure to connect with, and you know, I'm glad that you're doing well. You know, for the people watching, you know, this is where you plug yourself. Anybody that's in the local area of New Jersey, New York, tri-state, tell them where they can find you, website, social, and you know, and essentially, if somebody's looking to get in the industry, you know, how they can essentially approach you.
Yeah, you can reach us at 7soulstattoo.com. The number 7soulstattoo.com. All of our locations are on there, whatever one might be closest to you. All of our people are wonderful, incredible artists, incredible people. What was the other question?
And just, you know, essentially what you offer. So people watching, it's like, oh, it's like, what is Seven Souls?
Yeah, we offer high quality tattooing. We have a really great body piercing program. Our body piercers are amazing. We use incredible jewelry. You know, we just do everything high level, man. It's been really, you know, we're not the place you'd want to go to for a cheap tattoo, you know,
right.
That's for sure. But we're reasonable and we're fucking awesome. You'll never go anywhere else once you come here.
Well, I can attest to that. Obviously, you know, knowing how you run your shops, and you know, I think there's a lot to learn. So, guys, if you haven't, you know, definitely go take a look at Seven Souls. Check them out on their website or on their socials. Guy, I think again, time is one asset we don't get back. So you spending it here with me today means the absolute world to me. So thank you. And guys, go check out Seven Souls. Thank you.
All right, John. Thank you, brother. Good to see you.